Hello and welcome to the Aussie Football Passport, your one-stop pod for updates on your favourite Aussie men and women footballers who are playing their club careers abroad. I'm your host Alex, and in this week's episode, I will update you on the Matildas 2 group games and what's next, along with scores from all the other games at the Women's Asian Cup so far. Then there is the usual wrap of goals, assists, clean sheets, and unfortunately some more injury news. Yes, it does sound like deja vu. I think that was the intro for last week's show as well. Anyway, let's get into it with the headlines. And let's start with the Matildas games from last week. The first one was against Iran, where they defeated them 4-0 in matchday 2 of Group A, and that game was on the Gold Coast. A double from Alanna Kennedy scored either side of halftime, and a goal each from Amy Sayer and Mary Fowler was enough to secure the Matildas' progression to the quarterfinals. It could have been more, however, VAR ruled out 2 goals correctly for offside. The scorers were Caitlin Ford and Sam Kerr of those offside goals. Joe Montemurro made 5 changes from the side that defeated the Philippines 1-0 in the opening match. In defence, Charlie's Rule and Courtney Nevin replaced Steph, Cately and Winona Hayley. Alanna Kennedy and Mary Fowler came into midfield for Katrina Gorry and Claire Wheeler, whilst Amy Sayer replaced Hayley Raso up front. The move to start Amy Sayer paid dividends as she opened the scoring with a cross or a shot or a cross shot, depending on who you ask, even Amy herself, no doubt. That performance was much more like the Matildas we know and love, with Iran also deciding to press high, which played into the Matildas' hands, I thought, particularly in that first half. Then it's fair to say in the second half, Iran just completely decided to stop playing football whatsoever. There's lots of feigning of injuries, there was cramp, there's blatant time wasting, and unfortunately, it seemed to be a bit of a theme that we'll get onto in the second game against South Korea as well. So a little bit disappointing. It's not what we expect from women's football. It's usually a lot better behaved than men's football. I think you'll agree with me on that. We got to see some minutes for Holly McNamara, Remy Simpson and Hayley Raso, although Raso was hit twice in the face with the ball from point-blank range, and eventually she was actually substituted under the concussion protocols late on in that match. Michelle Heyman came on to replace her, so also good to see Michelle Heyman come on and get some minutes there. Steph, Cately and Caitlin Torpey also came on in this game. Here are Joe Montemurro and player of the match, Alanna Kennedy, discussing the game.
So could you please share with us your analysis of the match?
Yeah, look, I've said from day one, it's important we grow into the tournament, and obviously the consideration of obviously the quick turnaround of Sunday's game, but also to make sure that we're taking the steps forward in the way we want to play, and obviously in terms of being able to adapt to different structures and organizations against certain teams. So a positive step forward.
Thank you. So what about Miss Kennedy? Could you please share us with your review on the performance, maybe?
Yeah, I'd probably echo what Joe said. We're growing into the tournament. The aim was to obviously win the game. I think there's things that we definitely could improve, but going into the next match, I think that was, the job done, and now we're looking to grow and be even better next match.
Congratulations on the win, Alanna, after not starting the first game. What was your mindset for this one to come out and deliver that performance?
Yeah, I think for me it was just to keep things simple, grow into the game, and do the role that I've been asked to sit and be an anchor in that 6 role, and just, I guess, try and support at the back as well, a bit of balance. And yeah, obviously for me, scoring isn't something that I do often, but I was happy to get a couple of goals as well.
How's Hayley? Because she had a couple of rough knocks.
Yeah, we're assessing it at the moment. Obviously, those sort of injuries, we didn't want to take any risks, so we got her off as quick as we could. And so the medical staff, as I was leaving, they were sort of starting to analyse the situation. So we'll let you know as the hours go on and what the outcome of it.
Thanks to Football Australia and the AFC for that audio. Now let's get on to the second game, which was against South Korea, and the Matildas ended the group stage in second place after a 3-3 draw with South Korea. They went on to top the group with a superior goal difference. So, bit of a shame there for the Matildas. They were disappointed. But let's get on to a bit of the analysis of the match, because Alanna Kennedy bagged yet another brace to become the top scorer of the tournament. Sam Kerr was also on the score sheet in this one. Joe Montemurro made another 5 changes from the side that defeated Iran 4-0 on Thursday. Mackenzie Arnold made her first start for the tournament, replacing Chloe Lincoln in goal. In midfield, Katrina Gorry and Claire Wheeler replaced Amy Sayer and Emily Van Egmond. Winona Hayley replaced Charlie Rule at centre-back, whilst Steph Cately came in for Courtney Nevin on the left. However, Cately only played 19 minutes, coming off under concussion protocols due to a head injury suffered early in the game. She was replaced by Courtney Nevin, who had a tough evening, I think it's pretty fair to say. Unfortunately, when defending inside her own box, Nevin's arm was hit by the ball from a South Korean cross, which resulted in a penalty, correctly given in my opinion. South Korea levelled the game at 2-2 and then made it 3-2 in a matter of minutes. Halftime substitute Kong Chae-rim managed to get past Nevin to then place a pinpoint finish across goal that perhaps Arnold could have done better with to take the lead. So also unfortunate for Mackenzie coming in, playing her first game in the tournament and conceding 3 goals. The Matildas, as always, never gave up and had to fight until the end to find that equaliser. It came via the unlikely source that is Alanna Kennedy, whose powerful strike levelled the match at 3-3 in added time, of which there was plenty due to South Korea's time-wasting efforts throughout that game, particularly once they took the lead, it's pretty fair to say. Whilst it will be a disappointing result, as you'll hear shortly, it should be noted that this means the Matildas will not cross paths with Japan until the final, should both sides make it that far, of course. And this was noted by Paletti in the Asian Cup preview that we did a couple of weeks ago. The downside, however, is that the Matildas travel back to Perth to face North Korea on Friday night. So that added travel, not ideal. If they had have won that game, they would have topped the group and they could have stayed in Sydney to play their next opponent. We will bring you the wrap of that game on next week's episode. Now let's hear the thoughts of Joe Montemurro on that game.
You tell us your thoughts on the defensive performance in particular. The South Koreans spoke about how they look to exploit your centre-backs. How do you feel things panned out from the back?
Yeah, we got, especially the first goal, we got exposed. Didn't manage that well. Apart from that, I didn't really feel that there was much. I probably am more concerned, that we didn't control the game with the ball well when we should have. Those moments, I think, hurt us. It was very specific coming in after half time to make sure we manage the ball well. We didn't do that and got punished for it.
How's Steph in there? And I guess how do you, given the tight turnaround to the quarterfinal, pick up Courtney Nevin, who had the handball and probably could have and then had the goal on her side. How do you kind of make sure that when it comes to kick off next week that she's ready and willing to deliver for you?
Well, look, I mean, we'll obviously do our reconnaissance, do our work, look at areas where whoever we play, make sure that we're prepared. Obviously, we're in this situation. Steph was taken off for a concussion issue. And just moving forward on that, there was a lot of confusion with the concussion sub. It wasn't registered.
Look, I wonder if you could just elaborate on the room for improvement. What are you going to be working on in the next 5 days before your next match?
Oh, we've got to keep the ball better. We can't afford to. It's been the thing that I've been endorsing from day one, and when we do it well. And then we started to force things when we didn't need to, when the momentum wasn't there, and the game got scrappy and it got to a point which I didn't like, to be honest. But there were some very, very good moments also in the first half. I think there were some chances we probably should have maybe converted. But we didn't manage the moments well with the ball. That's the honest truth. And all credit to Korea. They managed the game a little bit better than us.
Thanks once again to Football Australia and the AFC for that audio. Now let's go around the grounds at the Asian Cup so far. In the remaining match day 1 games, China defeated Bangladesh 2-0 in their Group B matchup. Whilst in Group C, Japan defeated Taiwan 2-0 and Vietnam defeated India 2-1. Match day 2 saw South Korea defeat the Philippines 3-0 in Group A. In Group B, North Korea defeated Bangladesh 5-0 and China beat Uzbekistan 3-0. In Group C, Taiwan defeated Vietnam 1-0 and Japan absolutely thrashed India 11-0. Then the final match day 3, saw the Philippines defeat Iran 2-0, which means Iran are eliminated and the Philippines remain a chance of qualifying for the quarterfinals as one of the best third-place teams in the group stage. In Group B, Uzbekistan defeated Bangladesh 4-0 to keep their hopes alive of being one of the best third-place teams. And China defeated North Korea 2-1, meaning the Matildas will play North Korea in the quarterfinals, as I mentioned just a moment ago. India play Taiwan and Japan play Vietnam in the remaining fixtures in Group C, which are happening as I record this very podcast. That will ultimately decide who progresses and then who plays each other in the quarterfinals. So I'll bring you the scores from those games and then how that affected who faced up against who and who qualified as those best third place teams from the group stages. Now let's move on to that unfortunate sub-segment here, injury news. It's been confirmed by Brisbane Roar that Nick D'Agostino will be out of action for 6 weeks with a knee injury, which will also rule him out of those March internationals against Curaçao and Cameroon. The attacking options are thinning by the week, so what will Popper do? Will he bring in Ante Suto or will he play someone out of position up there in that number 9 role? Speaking of attackers, Ariaf Piol, another potential bolter. He started the season in great form for Real Salt Lake. If you cast your mind back to last week's episode, he did score what turned out to be the winner in their game against Seattle. However, it's turned out that he was substituted with an injury and it was a ruptured Achilles tendon. Ouch for Ariaf there. So it means that he is going to be out for a long time. I believe it's a 9-month recovery for that one. So this season completely wiped out for Ariaf, and it's an absolute shame because he looks like a man on a mission this season for Real Salt Lake. I wish him all the best in his recovery. Now, Tony Popovic held a press conference on Tuesday, and there were some injury updates in that one, most notably regarding Harry Sutar and Kusuni Yangi. Harry Sutar's setback was a knee injury, which has required a further 4 to 6 weeks of recovery. So that's why we haven't heard too much about Harry Sutar of late. Of course, I think probably about a month ago, I did mention that Harry Sutar was back training in contact training. However, that setback has now been revealed by Tony Popovic in that press conference. However, he is now back in full training with the team, and it is hoped that he might be available to return for his club side Leicester. However, to throw a spanner in the works, Leicester have a new coach there. So that might complicate things for him. Of course, he'll have to win trust of the new coach. Now, Kusuni Yengi was a notable absentee last week for Setazo Osaka, and now we know why, because Popper revealed that Kusuni Yengi has a quad injury and that will sideline him for 2 to 3 months. So the attacking options really are thinning out. So that led to Popper being asked what he might do with that number 9 role. And he did say that he is looking at potentially playing wingers in that role. So that's an interesting take. He also said that Aden Rustic and Riley McGree are number 10s and they could look to run beyond that number 9 or whoever is playing that number 9 role. So there's some options there. I'm not sure I like the sound of that, but let's see what Popper decides to do. I think someone like an Ante Suto is worth a punt. Mitch Duke hasn't really lit it up in the A-League so far, so puts a bit of a dampener on it. Let's see what Popper does with that Socceroos selection for the March friendlies. Anyway, that's it for the headlines. Next up, weekly wrap. All right, weekly wrap time. And of course, the ladies are still on their international break, so no news of our ladies that didn't make the Matildas squad playing for their clubs abroad at the moment to bring you. So I will do that once they're back in action. So let's start with our men and our men in the championship in particular, because Riley McGree started and played 83 minutes for Middlesbrough in their thrashing of QPR 4-0. Daniel Benny got 11 minutes as a late second half substitute for QPR, whilst his Aussie teammate Keely Adamson remained on the bench. Cameron Burgess started and played a full game, surprise, surprise, because he has not missed a minute for Swansea City this season, believe it or not. It's very impressive and no doubt why he will be one of the first names on the Socceroos team sheet. Anyway, he helped his side keep their 11th clean sheet of the season as Swansea City defeated Stoke City 2-0. Adrian Segicic, fresh off a bit of a blasting from his coach last week. He didn't start, but he came on in the 70th minute for Portsmouth in their 1-1 draw with Blackburn Rovers. Let's drop down a division to League One, where Alex Robertson started and played a full game for Cardiff City in their 2-0 loss to Lincoln City. Cardiff now drops to second place, but crucially remain in the automatic promotion places in the league. Caleb Watts started, played 73 minutes and provided an assist as his side Plymouth Argyle defeated Doncaster Rovers 2-1. Rafael Borges Rodriguez started and played 56 minutes for Wigan and provided their only assist as they drew 1-1 with Blackpool. Now let's head to Scotland, where Dundee United beat St Mirren 2-1 in a battle of the Aussies. Ashley Maynard Brewer started and played the full game in goals, whilst Zach Sapsford got 22 minutes off the bench. Ryan Strain was not in the matchday squad for Dundee United. Keanu Bacchus played the full game for St Mirren in midfield. Then at the weekend, Keanu Bacchus started and played 64 minutes for St Mirren in the Scottish Cup as they beat Partick Thistle FC 2-1 to advance to the next round. Dundee United lost 2-1 to Falkirk in the Scottish Cup. Both Ashley Maynard Brewer and Zach Sapsford started and played the full game for United, whilst Ryan Strain was on the bench but did not get any minutes. Nicholas Milanovic started but was substituted at halftime as his side Aberdeen, the current Scottish Cup champions, were eliminated by Dunfermline Athletic, who are a second division side in a massive upset there. The final score there, 3-0 to Dunfermline Athletic. Oscar Priestman played 47 minutes for Motherwell in their upset loss to Dundee, which ended 2-1. Still no sign of Johnny Katrumbis and no news as to whether he's injured, in disappointing news for the fullback. Now to Italy, where Alessandro Circati started and played a full game, helping his side Parma keep a clean sheet in their 0-0 draw with Fiorentina. Now to Germany, where Jackson Irvine started and played a full game for St. Pauli in their 0-0 draw with Eintracht Frankfurt. Connor Metcalf came off the bench in the 82nd minute for his side, St. Pauli. Now to Spain, where Matt Ryan started and played the full game in goal for Levante in a 1-1 draw with Girona. He was heading for a clean sheet, however, there was some VAR controversy. What a surprise. The goal that Girona scored initially was disallowed because their player was in an offside position and obscured Ryan's view. But upon review by VAR, the referee overturned his own decision and allowed the goal to stand. The result means Levante are 3 points from safety. Alamabil came on in the 68th minute for Castellón in a 4-2 loss to Real Sociedad B. Let's move on to Croatia, where Fran Karasic started and played a full game for NK Osijek in their 1-0 win over NK Istra 1961. Now to the Netherlands, where Jordan Bos played a full game and assisted for Feyenoord as they drew 3-3 with NAC Breda. Max Ballard played the full game for Breda. Back to Bos, and it was his 6th assist of the season. Fantastic stuff for Bos. Arden Rustic played a full game for Heracles Almelo in a 0-0 draw with FC Utrecht. His Aussie teammate Reece Bozanovski started and played 77 minutes in that one. Now to Austria, where Jacob Italiano is getting consistent minutes, which is great to see on his return from injury. He started and played 79 minutes for Grazer AK in their 2-0 loss to WSG Tyrrell. Jed Drew came on as a second-half substitute, getting 22 minutes in Hartberg's 1-1 draw with Blau-Weiß Linz. Now to Poland, where Denny Juric played 28 minutes as a second-half substitute for his side Wisła Płock in their 3-0 loss to Arka Gdynia. And of course, Denny Juric might be a very good chance of being named in that Socceroos side, considering he is a striker, he is fit, and he is playing minutes for his club side. Now to Cyprus, where Milos Degenek came off the bench in the 19th minute due to an injury for Apoel Nicosia in a 0-0 draw with Anthoris Famagosta FC. Now to Czechia, where Garan Quol started and played 69 minutes for Sparta Prague in midweek Czech Cup action against FK Mlada Boleslav. The match finished 0-0 before Mlada won 4-2 on penalties. Garan then came off the bench in the 68th minute for Sparta Prague as they lost the local derby 3-1 to SK Slavia Prague. Not only was it the derby, but it was also a top-of-the-table clash there. Now, rounding out the men's weekly wrap action in Northern America, where Patrick Yazbek played a full game and assisted twice for Nashville in a 3-1 win over Minnesota United FC. Kai Rolls played a full game for DC United in a 2-1 loss to Inter Miami. Kai Truen and Aidan O'Neill both played the full game as New York City FC recorded a dominant 5-0 win over Orlando City SC. Truen started in midfield but was moved back to centre-back as substitutes were made in the second half. Now, finally, Lucas Harrington started and played the full game for Colorado Rapids in their very surprising 4-1 win over LA Galaxy. All right, that's it for the weekly wrap. Next up, Players of the Week, and I'll round out this week's episode of the Aussie Football Passport. All right, Players of the Week time. And, well, it can only be one lady that gets the Player of the Week award this week, isn't it? It's Alanna Kennedy. Who'd have thought she would be the Matildas' top scorer of the group stage? Well, I certainly didn't. I can tell you that much. Remember, there were discussions after the December internationals about her place in the squad. Well, they are long gone after a couple of star performances in that midfield role that has seen her score 2 braces in 2 games. It's hard to see her losing a spot for the quarterfinal game on Friday, particularly as she has proven to be the vital goal source that her side has needed. Let's see what happens. Let's hope she keeps it up, and let's hope that the Matildas can get the job done against North Korea, more importantly. All right. Men's Player of the Week, and it's Joe Gauci because he has had an exceptional week. I mean, Patrick Yazbek did well with 2 assists in 1 game, but let me tell you why Joe Gauci got Player of the Week. He played 2 FA Cup games, yes, 2, and he kept 2 clean sheets as his side Port Vale progressed to the quarterfinals of the competition. This is despite the club languishing in the relegation zone, 11 points from safety in League One. In midweek, Joe Gauci played the full game as his side overcame Bristol City in extra time. The final score in that one was 1-0. Then at the weekend, they then beat Sunderland, who are a Premier League side, might I add, and it was 1-0, this time in regulation time. Gauci played the full game in that one also. And Gauci and Port Vale have been drawn against Chelsea in the next round of the FA Cup, which will take place on the 5th of April, Australian time. But back to Joe Gauci, it's a timely reminder from the big man before the upcoming March internationals and where the race for the 3rd goalkeeping spot in that Socceroos side heats up. Let's see if he gets the call from Popper in a week or so's time. Anyway, that's it for another week of the Aussie Football Passport. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please share this show with anyone you may think like it. I would absolutely appreciate it. Thank you very much. If you want to hear how our Aussie head coaches are going abroad, let me know in the comments or get in touch on social media, and I can add that as a new sub-segment within the weekly wrap. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Goodbye for now.